Today I wanted to show you how I put templates together and give you some tips and tricks. What I have here are templates 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to flip them over because we need to look at the back. And if I compare it to the inside of your pattern, you can see here, slide that over a little bit more, and maybe also up, that 4, 5, and 6 go in that order. So when we're looking at the back, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we see that that's how they line up. 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. And let me show you something else too. If we look really close here, the very first part of the numbers, see how it starts with 4, 5, and 6? We can't put 1, 2, and 3 on 1, 2, 3 until 4, 5, and 6 are together. And then you'll see that we can add 3 to the 4, 5, 6 group, and then we can add 2 to the 3, 4, 5, 6 group, and then we can add 1 to the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 group, and then we can add 7. So that's what these numbers mean. They're following the order that you've got over here. So let's look at 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to move 6 out of the way for now. 4 and 5. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is that it does not look like these match up. Okay, we're lined up over here on this side, but if you look over here, we've got this big extra piece. And the reason is because these seam allowances and things out here don't really count. What matters is if we take a pin and we put it through this corner, okay, and then we put these right sides together and try to poke through and find that same corner on the other side. When these are lined up, now we'll go to the other side and poke a pin through here. And wow, I got real lucky there that I went exactly through that corner. Because what will happen is on your seam allowance, where you're going to actually sew on your sew line, they do match up right there where your sew line will go. It's just like when you're sewing like with flying geese or something and you have the little dog ears whenever you're doing triangles. So once we've got those together, I don't like to fold pins back, because as soon as you take that pin and turn it sideways, let me put it in there and show you. As soon as you've got that pin in there and you turn it sideways, what that does is it moves it a little bit, like especially because the paper is in there. And so it starts to shift things around. So what you do is once you find that spot and get it lined up right where you want it, I like to use a Wonder Clip. But honestly, paper clips work really well also, because paper clips will lay really flat on your paper. And I'll put another one over here. Okay, and now I would take this to my machine and I would sew down that seam all the way down to the end. But I want to show you something that's important, and that's if you have something in the middle that matters, that you're actually trying to line up, instead of going corner to corner, I would take a pin through that point. This one doesn't have one, so it's not a good example of this, and find that spot on the other side where it matches up perfectly, and I would sew just that little area. Open it up, make sure it's matching perfect, and then go ahead and sew all the way to each end, because your little ends out here don't matter nearly as much probably as getting whatever's in the center to line up perfectly. There are not a lot of places where these things matter because the patterns are a little bit abstract. I'm gonna go ahead and sew this real quick. I've got my stitch length down the same way that I did for all of my piecing of the templates, because still you're trying to perforate paper and you're going to tear that seam allowance off. So let's go. And usually I will backstitch this part just a little bit, because this is a kind of a final seam. You hope that it's all going to line up perfectly and you're not going to take it back out. And this will just start to give it a little more stability throughout. And now we open it up and see it's the start of a star. I will take my seam roller and give it a really good press, really good roll, I guess. And then I will tear out the paper, only this little 1/4 of an inch seam allowance of paper. Once I've ensured that everything is lined up where I want, I'm positive I'm not taking it back out. I'll open this little part up right here, give that a good fold, tear this, fold, and see how I'm kind of following those stitch lines? Fold, and fold. Once it's folded really well, I'll open it up, and then I will roll off just those seam allowance pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect. That one didn't come off well at all. There we go. And then do the same thing to the other side. This will make paper pulling at the end so much easier. So much so that it will take paper pulling out of a quilt like this from being a several hour, like possibly 6 to 8 hour process, to only being like a 45-minute process. That's how much different it is. And I'll give it a good roll again. I go ahead and leave my seam allowances pressed to the side. It really is up to you. The rest of this whole thing is pressed to the side underneath the templates, and so there's no reason for this seam to be any different. I do let every seam decide for me though. If for some reason there were lots of pieces coming in so that you had a lot of bulk on this side, I would definitely lay it down so that those bulky pieces get to lay flat. If you have bulk coming in from both sides, then I would open that seam up. And sometimes if I have a lot of bulk coming this way here and this way here, I will actually twist that seam and roll it out in a twist. In this case, I'll just leave this flat. There's not a lot of bulk on either side. It's only in really extreme instances that I do anything different than that. And there's our first two pieces, 4 and 5. And that's the end.